Hey guys, we're into game 2 of round 1 in the MLS Cup Playoffs. Now here's a quick review of how game 1s went in the first round. Home teams, they dominated going 7-1. If we look at over-unders, they were 5-3 to the over. Bets on both teams to score were 4-4. Same with both teams scoring over 2.5, also going 4-4. There was 0 draws, which meant we saw no games going to PKs to decide a winner. Now, I went pretty deep into each of these matchups before game 1, so let's try and be a little bit quicker this time to not repeat all of the same stats. I'll link that game 1 video to this video at the end as well. While you're listening, please give this video a like. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Even though MLS might be winding down, I'm still covering picks from all the top European soccer leagues, NHL and NFL, and other sports throughout the year. So let's move on now to game 2 of round 1. Starting on Saturday, where we have 2 games, and it kicks off with the Red Bulls and FC Cincinnati. In game 1, Cincinnati played their first ever playoff game. It was 2-0 Cincinnati 35 minutes in. They got their third goal in the 89th minute. They got 2 goals from Barreal, and they won 3-0. The scores between these teams this season have now been 3-0, 2-1, 2-1, and 1-1. That 3-0 in game 1 snapped a run of 6 head-to-head games between them where both teams to score would have cashed. It also snapped a run of 4 games heading into the playoffs where the Red Bulls had scored a goal. Cincinnati's strong form continued. They're now 4-3-1 in their past 8. They've scored in all of those 8, but they have allowed a goal in 7 of their past 10 games as well. Also, prior to their last road game versus Miami, which was a 1-0 win, they had conceded in 10 straight on the road. In their past 12 road games, bets on both teams to score are also 10-2. Seeing that New York is at home here and they have to go all out to get the win, bet on both teams to score is probably a good bet, especially when you consider New York have scored in all of their past 12 home playoff games. Moving on, the next game, Saturday, is Dallas and Seattle. Seattle was undefeated at home versus Dallas in 17 games prior to going into game 1, and that extended to 18 games as they won 2-0. Dallas lost Velasco to injury in game 1, which is a reported torn ACL, so he is very likely not going to be playing in game 2 either. Rusnak got a PK goal. Morris got a headed goal. They did so with Ruiz Diaz only coming off the bench late in the game. Seattle led the game in shots, 20-9. Seattle are now 10 games undefeated overall at 5-5-0. Dallas had been undefeated in 9 games themselves, but they're now 2-7-1 in their past 10. Now, Dallas only has 1 win all season when Jesus Ferreira doesn't score a goal, and that is just not good news in this game 2, since he's ice cold with no goals in his past 7 games, and only has 2 goals in 1 game in the past 12 in all competitions. So he's not scoring, no one is scoring. It doesn't look good for Dallas. Dallas also has a good home form playing against Seattle. They only have 1 loss in their past 13 home games, so that's a positive for Dallas here. At home versus anyone, Dallas is actually undefeated in their past 10 games, but they only have 3 wins in those games, so they're 3-7-0. Now here's one more home stat for Dallas. In their last 24 home playoff games, only 2 times have they been shut out, and only 2 times have they kept clean sheets. Both teams to score is 7-0 in their past 7. And all 3 games between these teams this year have now gone under 2.5 goals. And these were the highest under 2.5 rated teams on the season. Now, Dallas do need a win here. They do have historically good home form, both in the season, both going back in the playoffs. But, I mean, those are teams with the past. Right now, it's Jesus Ferreira scoring or no one scoring. So I don't know if you can really count on all those stats. Maybe this is a 1-0 Seattle win. Perhaps it's 1-1 and it goes to PKs. Could also probably be another under 2.5 or maybe an under 3.5 in a parlay. Let's go on to Sunday. Now we have 2 games on Sunday, and this is where I want to get some official picks started, and it looks like a good place to start. In SKC in St. Louis, in game 1, it was 3-0 at half for SKC. They went on to win 4-1. They did so with DP's Russell with a groin injury and Tommy with a calf injury, not playing, although Tommy did come on from the bench later on in the game. SKC let Seattle have the ball, which is not something that they like to do, and it definitely worked. St. Louis only had 0.56 XG last game. For St. Louis, it was the first time they've lost 3 games in a row during the MLS all season. But they've been poor since Leagues Cup, actually. Despite having a very strong start to the season, they are now just 4-3-5 and only have 2 wins in their past 9. It's been the opposite for SKC. They started poorly in the season. They've been much better late on. Now, SKC only had 3 goals in their first 10 games to start the season, but over the final 20 games, they were tied for the most points in the Western Conference. They ended and improved some trends as well in the playoffs for them in game 1. They had no first half playoff goals since 2003. They ended that. And in road playoff games, they were 2-24. They're now 3-24 lifetime with still a bad record. But obviously they did something they don't usually do. Both teams were 24-10 to over 2.5 totals this season. So we have two high-scoring teams here. St. Louis has kept just one clean sheet in all competitions on the road, and that came against Toronto, so nothing to get too excited about there. In their past 17 games, they have one road win in 9 as well. In all competitions, SKC have only failed to score 3 times in their past 25 games. I want to say I see goals coming from everywhere in this game, but St. Louis got 1 goal at home against their rivals in their first playoff game, so I do possibly see a scenario where they have just run out of gas and maybe they get run off the field again going on the road to SKC. So let's play this one very safe and just go over 1.5 goals. So as long as we see 2 goals, we'll hit this first leg of the parlay, and then we will pair it with the other game on Sunday, and it's Vancouver and LAFC. I see definitely some goals in this game as well. Vancouver went right at LAFC, but they couldn't go blow for blow with them in game 1, and they went on to lose 5-2. LAFC was up 1-0. It was then tied 1-1. LAFC took a 2-1 lead. It was 2-2 at the half. Then LAFC ran away in the second half, went on to win 5-2. Hollingshead and Bouanga each had 2 goals. Bouanga now has 35 total goals in all competitions. LAFC also got 4 goals off of set pieces and 3 from corners, which is really poor defending from Vancouver's part. Scores between these teams have now been this season 5-2, 1-1, 3-2, 3-0, and 3-0. LAFC's last 4 games have had scores of 5-2, 1-1, 4-1, and 5-1. Vancouver games have seen both teams to score hitting in 8 of 10. Vancouver have lost just 2 of 15 home games in all competitions since April 5th, so they should be confident in trying to even up this series on Sunday. The Caps need the win, and they're likely not going to be playing for PKs to get it. They came out and attacked on the road and got 2 goals. It'll probably be a similar approach this time, even if they do try to just play a little bit more defensive. But LAFC have scored versus Vancouver in every game this season. That's 5 games. I don't see that changing here. Both teams should score, and either Vancouver pushes and gets that second goal, or they get exposed attacking, and LAFC puts this series away. Either way, I think we see both teams to score in over 2.5. So we'll go Vancouver, LAFC, both teams to score over 2.5. SKC and St. Louis over 1.5 at minus 120 odds. Let's go on to Monday, where we have just one game on Monday, and it's RSL and Houston. In game 1, it was 1-0 Houston, then 1-1. Then Houston scored late in the game in the 79th minute for the win. Looking at some stats, Houston had 71% possession. They let in shots, 23-7, shots on target, 5-2, corners, 9-1, XG 1.91 to just 0.41. Those were all in favor of the Dynamo. RSL, they were out defender Justin Glad, their top offensive threat, Chicho Arango, plus Pablo Ruiz has been a long-term absentee. They did have Diego Luna, who has scored a goal now in each of RSL's last 3 games, so he is one of their lone bright spots right now. Houston is now undefeated versus RSL, though, in 4 games this season. They just won 2-1 in the playoffs. They drew in the regular season 0-0, then won 3-0. They also beat RSL 3-1 in extra time in the U.S. Open Cup. Now, for much of the season, bets on Houston on the road would have been something to stay far, far away from. They're just 3-5-9, but in their last 6 road games in MLS, they're now 2-3-1. It's a very respectable mark. If you look across all competitions, whether they're home or away, they also have just 2 losses in their past 17 games. Now, for RSL in all competitions, they have just 4 wins in 13. 2 came against Colorado, 1 versus the Galaxy, and 1 versus Vancouver. So 3 of those 4 wins are not against very good teams. Tuesday wraps up the final round, and we have Atlanta and Columbus playing here. Actually, it's not. It's the second to last day of this round of game 2s. We have 2 games, Atlanta, Columbus. Columbus caught a big break in game 1 with Atlanta's Thiago Almada suspended. Atlanta created little offense with only 1 shot, 0 shots on target, and 0.08 XG, which is very tough to imagine for an offensive team like Atlanta. The Crew had 14 shots. They had 8 shots on target. They saw Cucho Hernandez score 2 goals, 1 in first half stoppage time, and then an early second half PK. He now has 12 goals in the last 9 matches. Columbus had the most first half goals in the league, outscoring opponents 36-14, and they obviously did so again in game 1. So if you were looking for any prop bets for first half goals, Columbus is definitely your team. Now without Almada, Giacomakos was quiet. He only had 19 touches in game 1 with no one providing service to him. Columbus are now undefeated in their last 16 at home in all competitions. Now historically though, when they go on the road, they've not been good in the playoffs as they are 0-5-10 in their past 15 road playoff games. But they're also undefeated in their last 4 trips to Atlanta. So those are some counterpoints for home and away form, their away form. One of those came recently, where they went to Atlanta and they drew 0-0 very recently, October 7th, a 1-1 draw near the very end of the season. Now these were the 2 highest scoring teams this season, with Columbus scoring 67 goals and Atlanta scoring 66. Columbus have now scored 38 of 41 in all competitions this year, while they've conceded a goal 31 of 41 games. Now, Atlanta being held off a score sheet, though, is very rare for themselves as well. It only happened twice in MLS this season, and if you look at all competitions, it hasn't happened in any of their past 19 games when playing at home. In 8 of 11 at home, they've also scored multiple goals of late. This game has to see goals. This next game might not see goals. It's Nashville and Orlando. Orlando won Game 1 off a wonder strike from Cartagena in the first half, and that was it for the scoring. It was a 1-0 win for Orlando. But Nashville did miss an easy goal from Surridge. Mukhtar hit the crossbar. Bunbury missed a header in the second half. So they had a few chances, but they just could not finish, which has been the story for Nashville for many, many weeks. The shots were 25-7 for Orlando. However, they didn't create very many good scoring chances. Their XG was just 1.2. For Nashville, Mukhtar only has 2 goals in his past 17 MLS games. Orlando has kept 4 clean sheets in their last 5 games now. Now, I said this in the first game. This could be an under. Maybe simply just bet Orlando to get a goal as part of a parlay, and that is what we did. And we did hit that. Nashville has been shut out in 5 of 6, also in 7 of 10. And if Mukhtar isn't scoring, just simply no one is. In fact, Mukhtar has a goal and an assist in each of Nashville's 13 wins this season, so they only win when he contributes. Right now, he just isn't. Orlando now has just 3 losses in 21 games in all competitions, and they've also scored in 18 of those 21 games. They were the best road team this season, so going on the road here shouldn't concern them much. I can say the same thing here for Game 2 as I did in Game 1. Maybe Orlando scores in a parlay. Maybe it's under 3.5 as part of a parlay. Or if you want a single bet, probably another under 2.5 on its own. And now finally, on Wednesday, despite being the first matchup we saw in round 1, way back on October 28th, Game 2 between New England and Philly is the last one in this round on Wednesday, a full 11 days later. So lots of rest for these teams. In Game 1, New England started okay. They hit the crossbar, but then things got bad when Carlos Gil got injured and went downhill from there. It was 3-0 Philadelphia at the half. They looked lost without Gil, and they got one garbage time individual effort goal from Gustavo Bo late in the game to make it 3-1, which did cash a both teams to score bet for us. But, so like I said, it did save our bet, didn't do much for New England. Now, that time off, though, should hopefully be good for Gil to return. The Revs, though, they have a young keeper in Jackson. He's now making only his 4th MLS start, 23 years old. He made a big mistake last game, which led to a PK goal. And you just can't trust New England, though, to keep clean sheets no matter who is in net right now. It hasn't happened since August 30th. Their past score lines have been, and it's a long run of high-scoring games. 3-1, 2-1, 3-2, 3-2, 2-1, 2-1, 2-2, 2-1, 1-1, and 2-2. Philly, they won, but they have just 3 wins in 10 right now. Both teams to score bets are 10-2 in their past 12. In Philly's last 13 road games in all competitions, they too have only kept 1 clean sheet, and that was versus goal-starved Nashville. New England, they can lean on their home form here at 12-4-1 in MLS. They scored in every single home game in the league this season. Historically, they also haven't lost in regulation in any home playoff game since 1997, being 13-6-0 since that time. Now, much of their potential success in Game 2 will depend on Gil's availability, and interim coach Clint P says he's fine and he's back in training, so we have to assume that he will be starting. But they need to attack, they need to win. And much like the Vancouver, LAFC, and Atlanta Columbus games, I think we see goals here between 2 teams that can score and don't keep a lot of clean sheets. So I talked about the first parlay earlier on in this video, saying let's go for 2 goals between SKC and St. Louis, and both teams to score in over 2.5 with Vancouver and LA. Let's make 2 more parlays here. There just simply has to be goals between Atlanta Columbus and New England Philly. I would think all of those teams score, and none of them would want to go to PKs to decide the winner. So I do really think a 2-game parlay of both teams to score in over 2.5 would be the best value. You definitely get over plus money. But you can also get right on about even money at -105s. We're simply betting both teams to score in both of those games, which is what I've done just in case one of those games does end 1-1 and does go to penalties. Finally, Dallas and Seattle and Nashville and Orlando, they just look to be the complete opposite of that storyline. and we could do a parlay with both of those games going under 3.5 as well. Dallas was 29-6 to under 3.5 totals. Only 2 of 9 games recently have gone over 3.5. Seattle, they're 28-6 to under 3.5. Only 1 of their past 13 have gone over that number. Nashville's 28-6 as well. Only 1 of their past 10 have gone over 3.5. Orlando, 23-11, a little bit better, a little bit worse. Only 2 of their past 11 have gone over 3.5. All of these games look like they should be tight. We have several teams that are struggling to score here. If you do under 3.5 in both of those games, you'll get minus 113 odds. So that wraps up my round 1 Game 2 previews for the MLS Cup Playoffs. Now, what do you like? Be sure to drop your favorite picks down there in the comments. And best of luck with all of your MLS picks this round and weekend.